transcription.
ML Elric, unemployed
Investigator, starring
ML Elric. ML Elric.
Speaking. Detectives come in three sizes: city cops, big agencies, and guys like me with a small office and an insurance company retainer to pay the rent. Cops don't have to worry about getting cases, and the big agencies have branches from here to Shanghai. But from where I sit, you never can tell where your next case will come from.
You asked interrogator question out of my face. Gone.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now,
I have to start with a disclaimer. Once again, another fantastic production job by Mr. Marc Fellhauer.
That was an easy one. That was an easy one this week.
But sometimes it's the original, it's the source material that can cause some confusion. So I want you to go back on your own time, everybody. Use the slider if you're doing the audio, or you can use the same thing if you're watching us on YouTube channel ML Elric. When you hear that part that said, I'm ML Elric and I have a small, it says office. Small office. I want to make sure
Not
that
orifice?
you heard that clearly. I just don't want there to be any confusion because there's a lot of myths out there.
There was an intro?
There was an intro. It was.
God, I must have.
Did you fall asleep
spaced out.
already?
No, not fall asleep. Just I zoned out.
Do
Sorry.
you have an attention span problem?
That's Shawn Windsor, of course.
I didn't used to.
Until you started doing this show?
Yeah, he
Get
couldn't.
to a certain age.
He couldn't hear it over the stream of consciousness or the stream flowing through his constricted urethra.
Well, that wouldn't make it much of a stream.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. But so we go from dribble to drabble here on ML Soul of Detroit.
More of a trickle.
And we're brought to you by some folks who support the entire Red Shovel Network. They're kind enough to throw a few shekels our ways. That is Hall Financial and Luke Nowacki. Hall Financial, believe it or not, has seen interest rates go down at the same time the Fed is increasing them. So, Mark, is this a good time? I mean, this is probably a rhetorical question, but is this a good time to call Hall?
It's always a good time to call Hall.
Damn
first. At 866-CALL-HALL or go online, callhallfirst.com. And I believe right now they're still doing the free appraisals, saving you up to $750. If you're going to go look for a new home and buy a new home, get your finances straight first. Call Hall first. They have nearly 5,000 five-star reviews, and they're going to make the entire process very easy and simple. I mean, you've used them.
I've used them twice, and if the housing market ever changed, I'd look to use them a third time.
Oh, really?
Just need to get those prices down.
Become a slumlord?
No. I'm thinking of being, I think what they call it is a real estate impresario in a college town.
Oh, okay.
No,
or a tycoon?
Some people call that a slumlord, but our homes are of impeccable quality.
Call hallfirst.com. You know, it's funny. I still remember my first landlord in Ann Arbor when I moved out of the dorms. Young Ho Hung was his name, and the guy ruled. He'd come over on a Saturday to fix something at like 7 a.m. with a bunch of hungover college students, and he'd bring like 9 large pizzas.
Wow!
And only 6 of us lived there. Like, okay, cool. Yeah.
And is he still young or is he now old?
I don't know if he still owns that house or not. That was a great. Oh my god, that was a great house.
Did he favor tight jeans like you do?
What?
I wear tight. The Euro look.
What?
That's nice.
What are you talking about? I don't even have jeans on
you're
today.
Showing
Liar.
or pants, khakis, blue pack khakis, whatever it is.
You're fake news.
You know what I mean?
Are they that tight?
How many coins does he have in his pocket? That's the test.
Maybe it was just the way you were sitting. I just thought you're leaning into yourself. You're owning it. I like it. He's stepping out.
Hey, I am what I am, man.
Marc Fellhauer has a large office.
Okay,
that's right. We had a roommate. A house owner. I guess what do we call it? Landlord in the first house I lived on, and he was great. And then he sold the house to a guy who was kind of the notorious big house owning guy. He was sort of a regular dude who owned a bunch of houses, and he was buying up more. And we begged this guy, "Oh, don't sell." He said, "Oh, no, I gotta sell." And according to local lore, the guy who owned all these houses, who ended up owning the house we moved into the next year too, he just lost like half the houses because he was collecting rent from some of the lovely co-eds in some of the houses, and apparently his wife found out, and his empire fell apart. That's
Really?
that's what we were told. We don't know.
Isn't that illegal?
Well,
You're alluding to some sort of prostitution, right? Wouldn't that be considered illegal?
I think barter. Okay. Barter is more like it, but and maybe it was just one co-ed, but the word on the street was his empire was riven by scandal. But
now,
we knew we had an unresponsive landlord, because one morning we woke up and somebody was pounding the hell out of the house. We thought it was coming down. We didn't know what it was, and he said, "We're putting a new roof on." I'm like, well, can they start like later in the day or after we move out? He's like, nope. And we're like, is that in the lease? It's like, oh, we're doing it. I said, okay, all right.
I had 3 places I lived in Ann Arbor. They were all dumps, and I loved living there. I don't know why. There's something about living in a dump when you're that age that I don't know, creates character. Maybe no.
I don't know about character.
Living with other people, I think, really helps, because you really learn about human frailties and what you'll put up with and what you shouldn't have to put up with very quickly. When you're in a house that's licensed for 3 that has 6 guys, including somebody who sleeps in a closet with it's actually impossible for them to sleep horizontally because there's just not enough square footage.
I was a terrible roommate.
Why?
I was a sad, lost little puppy, you know.
Well,
so much has changed.
This is an avenue I'd love to go down.
No. Just, it was at Austin, University of Texas, and yeah, it was not good.
Would you lash out at your roommates, or
no? I didn't lash out at them. I would lash out at just the world in a way, maybe.
Really? Wow.
That's back when he was known as Shawn Whitman.
Abusing substances and
look it up, folks.
It's college.
Throwing glass coffee tables up against the cement wall and stuff like that.
Climbing the clock tower and
yeah, I had a roommate rightfully
scoping out those babes.
I had a roommate rightfully move out the next day after that.
Scoping out
that coffee table, by the way.
That might have been your best joke.
Yeah. For those who
other like a mass murder joke.
You wouldn't want to come in and see a carpet covered in shattered glass, would you? You would be like,
but if I knew you.
How was it? Was it like when Tommy Boy fell on the coffee table just after graduation and shattered?
No. I had a guy, a friend over, I guess, who was, high on something and threw a beer bottle. The apartment had it was made out of cinder blocks, so it was a hard wall, and he threw a beer bottle at 2 a.m. Nobody else was home at the time except the 2 of us, and shattered the glass all over. And he said, "Oh, that was cool." So it kept doing another and another and another.
Yeah, stupid.
I jumped in, and all of a sudden we had no more beer bottles. And he's like, "What about that glass coffee table?" That's how that happened. So the roommates who worked all night shifts come home at 7 a.m. and there's nowhere to walk.
That's a waste of Lone Star.
And they left over that? Jeez.
Yeah, well, of course they would. I would have too. I mean, how stupid. And
I say they showed concern for your mental state.
Silly and ridiculous.
Cleaned it up and helped you out, and so they just bailed. What kind of lesson is that?
No, that wasn't their responsibility. But anyway, you never know who you're going to run into. A dope like me, right? So learning to navigate that is.
It's good to see that you've lightened up a lot over the years.
Well, yeah, don't bring any glass.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. The last house I think I lived in had a carpeted kitchen and a carpeted bathroom.
Yeah, we did too. A carpeted bathroom was the worst.
Who carpets a bathroom?
I don't know. That was the worst. We had one too.
And then rents to guys. I'm like,
awful. Ugh. I had female roommates. I had multiple female roommates along with guys in this one house.
Is that big office?
Bananas. No, it's It was just fun times.
Damn. Okay.
Well, it taught me that females can be way messier than guys because they have more stuff.
They also tend to call the landlord a lot more often. I'll just tell you that based on my limited experience. There's a lot of hair in the drain.
That's true. Yeah.
There wasn't before you guys moved in, so why are you calling me?
I don't think we ever called the landlord for anything.
No, we called Don.
Adapted and lived.
Don was the first landlord on the Milford house. We called Don and told him, please don't sell. The Milford house reminds me of a story. My buddy, Dave Stearns, was walking home from Pinball Pete's or something one time. And
Is this another story about your penis?
No. Pinball.
Oh,
Pete's.
okay.
Pinball Pete's.
So he's walking home, and all of a sudden this group of big guys surround him, and they're all wearing varsity jackets with H on them. So we think they're like from Holt High School or Williamston or one of these nearby schools. And they surround him, and they're walking with him the whole way back to the house. And he's getting close to the house, but they don't know that because they don't know where he lives. And he's playing
Look at
really
the size
cool.
of these guys.
And he says to him, he's like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" You know, he tries to make up a conversation with them, and they said to him, "Don't make us try to like you because we'll feel bad after we beat you." And so he gets right to the house, and he throws like a 90-degree turn, so it's not obvious where he's going. He just hits right in the back door, and luckily it was unlocked, and so he got in there and locked the door. And then, being a jackass that he was himself, he's like flipping them off through the windows without checking whether the front door is locked. But he got away with it. But lots of.
Did you always keep your doors unlocked or locked, or generally unlocked?
I mean, I always lock a door when I leave it, but when you live with 5 or 6 guys, there's no telling who's going to do what. And of course, somebody always loses their key, so that's always a problem. And that's when windows get busted.
I remember coming back to the main house that I lived at. I had like an early doctor's appointment. I'm coming back at say 8:30 in the morning, and there's some guy walking out of the front door. I'm like, I don't recognize that guy. Who's that guy? And he had a giant plastic bag with him. I'm like, oh, that's really weird. Who is that? What is he doing? Whose
Why
friend
is all
is
our
this?
shit in this plastic bag?
Yeah, and so he saw me and dropped one of the bags, took another bag, and left. And I'm like, okay, what just happened here? Like, I'm still kind of, I don't know, it's 8:30 in the morning. I'm not thinking we're getting robbed at 8:30 in the morning. But sure enough, guy just door was unlocked, came in, took VCRs, TVs, stuff like that, put them in these bags, and only took one of them. Now, the fun part is I got to call the police, and the police came over, and I picked him out of a lineup. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, I was very proud of myself.
You should be.
African-American
citizen.
gentleman, too, and I picked him out of a lineup.
Damn. So
I don't know why I was so proud about that, but
I'm not sure. So you
it was exciting, man. It was like I felt like I was in my own CSI episode because they were dusting too. I'm like, why are you? Now I'm like, why are you dusting in this house for this crap?
What's the relevance of African American gentlemen?
Well, there is a stereotype that white people think all black people look the same.
Oh, so
I was able to pick him out of a lineup of 6 African American men.
So you were discriminating, not discriminating.
I was not. No, I knew. I
mean,
knew what he
you
looked
had
like.
discriminating.
It's a
eyes.
stereotype. I don't have them.
So the white
I'm very
guilt.
proud of them.
So the white
I
guilt.
have no white
bill,
guilt.
The
I
white
nailed
guilt
it.
bill in Florida is for people like you, is what you're saying.
What is the white? You know I
I thought there was a gay bill in Florida. Not
There's
a white
that too.
guilt.
There's
Oh.
separate bills.
Wait,
Why does everybody want to go to Florida? It sounds very complicated.
What is the white guilt bill, and what is it really called?
I don't remember the name of it exactly, but the idea is that
critical race
workplaces
theory?
and school, it's sort of tied up with that, but it's workplaces and schools can't require any kind of training or teach anything that would make you feel guilty, basically, for what your ancestors have done.
Yeah, Trump tried to impose some of that when they were doing sensitivity training on federal employees just before he left
Right.
office.
So you're not allowed to
like
feel
a
guilty?
local version of that?
Yeah.
Is that DeSantis trying to out-Trump Trump again?
It's DeSantis, and I don't know that he's signed it yet, but it's it's come up to the House, the State House. So
I would like to see DeSantis and Trump go toe-to-toe. I think DeSantis is a pretty formidable guy.
Oh, yeah.
And I
Well,
wonder who comes out of that battle.
you can talk about the Mayflower, you just can't talk about who was on the bottom, in the bottom of the Mayflower, right?
I don't think the Mayflower was a
Mayflower didn't have
slave ship.
slaves.
Oh, I know. That's a metaphor.
I'll tell you who's on the bottom. The Irish were on the bottom of it.
Yeah, that's
Irish
not literal.
Puritans.
Exactly. Yeah.
Was
But
speaking of Irish.
Oh, wow. Perfect segue.
Yes, you knew we'd bring it home eventually. The Caju Cafe is the place to be this Thursday, which is March 17th, where we're doing a special broadcast of ML Soul of Detroit live from the Caju St. Patty's at the Caddies from noon to 2. The party starts at 11. We'll broadcast from noon to 2, and after we're done, we're going to have Irish music all day, all evening, and probably into the morning. The Irish balladeer, Michael O'Brien, Odd Enough Celtic Music Band, and at 8 o'clock, the Corktown Popes take the stage. So check out the Caju Cafe. Find out what's going on every night at the Caju Cafe, because there's always something going on there. It's the pride of the East Side. You can find out more at cajucafe.com. And for those of our listeners who are not Francophones, that's CADIEUX, CAFE.com. We will have a link to that on our website, which is mlsoulofdetroit.com. So
Francophobes.
So check that out. That's right. People who...
Isn't it a Belgian place?
It is, but there's... Well, Belgium's funny. There's part of it that's Flemish, part of it speaks German, part of it that speaks Italian, I think, and part of it that speaks French. But Cadieux is a French. It's a French
I know.
surname because Cadieux Road was one of the ribbon farms that the French settlers had, so it went from the river all the way up Cadieux.
It's gonna be a long day. Man, St. Patrick's gonna be a long day.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good place for me to be because I can walk home from there. That's a crucial element of my
Good,
plan
yeah.
to survive St. Patrick's Day is to walk home from wherever I end the day. And we also need to acknowledge another sponsor, a guy who makes this show possible, Mr. Luke Nowacki, who is the guy you want to turn to when you're looking at your 401k statement and saying, what
happened?
hath God wrought?
Yeah, this year has just been atrocious. It's funny too because nobody can figure out the market. The old adage is you don't.
Not even you?
No, you don't time. Well, honestly, like today, I thought today, is this going to be another bad day because there's coronavirus numbers are increasing in China and, Russia just drags on. There's just a lot of uncertainty and the Fed's supposed to meet about raising. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's going to go down. And then I remember, no, wait, the market's always 3 days ahead of the news. They know this stuff before it even gets to the news. And now it's up big today.
Because of Opus Dei.
But, yeah, another conspiracy.
They control the stock market.
The point is you need to have rational financial advice and don't freak out. And that's what Luke at Pinnacle Wealth provides, 248-663-4748. He'll know where the market's going, what it's thinking to the best of his ability, stocks, bonds, 401ks, 529s, all those things. Where do you put your money? How do you allocate it? Get advice, get a strategy. Luke Nowacki, Pinnacle Wealth, 248-663-4748.
And if you're not a Mason, if you're not a member of the Trilateral Commission, if you're not with Opus Dei, he will still make it all about you, sweetheart.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates, Inc., member FINRA-SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates, Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates, Inc.
And we'll have a link to Luke's website on our website. Whenever you contact one of our sponsors, please let them know that ML sent you. And at the Cadieux Cafe, it's possible. I don't want to promise anything, but it's possible there may be a Joe Zuver sighting at the Cadieux Cafe.
Wow.
So,
That would
and we're expecting Matt Jennings to be back with
Wow.
his own brand of humor. That's why we'll be drinking.
I went to a concert with Jennings a couple of weeks ago.
I saw that. Was it Tool or Spoon or Pitchfork?
Tool.
Tool, okay.
Do you even know the band Tool? This is what I find fascinating. Do you
I know a lot of Tools. I don't know if they formed a band or not.
Do you just poo-poo it because it's
Because they're called Tool.
No, I like metal. I'm all for that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you like metal, I think you would like Tool.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I would.
All right.
How was the concert?
It's great. It was. I mean, it's kind of I think it is my first big concert post-COVID. So I just love seeing live shows. But man,
And you had fun with Maddie?
it cracks me up, man. He pulls his camera out to take a picture of the stage before it even starts. And I've never seen security all over someone as quick as they were because no photos. They're not messing around. They'll kick you out. Blah, blah. And there's a sign directly in front of Matt that says no photos. Like, yeah, you probably should have read that sign right there in front of you.
Why don't they want any photos?
That's just been their thing. They want you to enjoy the show. They don't want you filming it or taking photos the whole show. And then the last song, they always allow you, okay, bring out your cameras for this last song. And we know you're addicted to them, is what Maynard said. And naturally, everyone's just like,
It is a drag to be at a concert and not be able to see the stage because everybody in front of you is holding up their phone.
It has always been my biggest pet peeve are phones at concerts. I don't know why. I don't know.
Do people watch those later?
Well,
by the way?
that's part of the reason is
question.
because you're watching it through your phone while you're there. And secondly, any video anyone's showed me from a concert, it always sucks. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, I think the only time I actually looked for concert video was my daughter Emily got to perform with Roger Waters, and
I remember that story.
I tried to record it and I screwed it up. So I was hoping some joker
That's totally
put
different.
it up there.
That's very, very different.
Well, that would be the 1% exception, right? Because how many times does your kid get to perform on stage with some huge star? In which case, you want to see as much of that as you can. But
I don't know. I digress.
So we convened today to talk a little bit about March Madness, which I know the first round will be over before some of you hear this show, but I have to share something that popped up on my Twitter feed, which just cracked me up. And I'd love to hear Mr. Windsor's responses. Chris Solari, who's the beat writer for the Detroit Free Press, tweeted, Tom Izzo gives Shawn Windsor credit for being a reporter who still wants to be an AAU coach. What prompted Tom Izzo to troll you at a press conference?
He did.
Well, what's the
Well, can you
backstory?
tell us what happened?
Before I start throwing beer bottles and shattering coffee tables.
Because you're tight with Izzo. Oh, you're
not tight
You have a
with
good.
Izzo.
You have a very good relationship.
They have a healthy respect for each other.
I
and
don't
a
know
good
about
rapport.
that.
Okay, you guys hate each other. I don't know.
Izzo wants you to die in your own blood. But what made him say this?
Oh, what
Preferably
game
at
was
his
it?
hands.
It was after Michigan State beat Wisconsin.
Was this a long question where you said something like, Tom, I know you had your wings utilized and then you ran the 4-2 and then you had your double dribble post up and then the guy had backdoor action and I know you were looking to hit Joe Bag of Donuts on the bench. It didn't work out. So can you talk about that?
Well, I don't usually use the phrase "talk about that." That's kind of a no-no, although some folks do. And I'm not judging. It's fine.
It's weak. I hate it when people ask.
It does. It often.
That, yeah.
It sometimes we'll get good answers, though, right?
It goes nowhere.
Sometimes it does. So I
Rarely.
understand why.
Set the scene for us.
I understand why people do that. Michigan
You have a
State.
cough button over there, by the way.
I'm hitting the wrong one then.
No,
I'm hitting this one.
I like hearing his cough. Any noise he makes is nice. That's how it goes.
Try it. See if it works.
Yeah, just don't grab anything and ask me to cough.
Press it and cough.
I wouldn't grab anything.
See if it works.
Because I have a huge office.
See if it works.
Need something to drink?
Hey, it works. Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Now you
Does
can
that
talk
work?
without him being
Fantastic.
coughing all
Oh,
over.
it's
I don't
all
know who
good.
I just muted over there, but I apologize.
So what happened with Izzo?
Yeah, Izzo.
You're building
Give it up.
suspense by saying nothing.
Michigan State beat Wisconsin in the quarters or whatever it was. The Big Ten tournament was in Indianapolis, and
Glorious victory.
on Friday night. And their 5-star freshman Max Christie had his best game in a month, and he struggled this year. For those of y'all out there that don't really care about Michigan State or follow, but they have this highly touted freshman who's had a really up and down year, and he had arguably his best game of the season, or at least his best game in a long time. And he made some shots. And for those of you that don't know anything about basketball or care one way or the other, let me say real quickly, when you take a jump shot, you follow through with your wrist and it puts the rotation on the ball.
Put the cookies in a cookie jar, right?
And occasionally there are good shooters out there that shoot a knuckleball, right? Tim Hardaway comes to mind. He used to shoot a knuckleball in the 90s. He's a guy that really busted out the crossover move. Anyway, sorry about all that. So Christie's first shot's a knuckleball, goes in. And then there's several shots after that, there's rotation. And when you see a player shooting like that, they're starting to feel comfortable and confident. So I asked about that, and was that part of the plan, because they'd had a lot of talks, and Christie waited a while to shoot. So yeah, it was a somewhat involved question about his confidence level and all of that, and I mentioned the rotation of the ball. So he starts to give me a good answer, and then he stops himself and says, "Okay, everybody, this is Shawn Windsor, a sports writer who still wants to be an AAU coach." And just in front of everybody, he stops himself mid-answer.
How demeaning of him.
Well, no, because we talk on the phone sometimes, and I will tell him,
I know.
what about this or this or this?
And then he says,
You don't know basketball. You just
no,
got caught.
he'll actually say what he says to anybody that does know a little bit
You don't
about
know
it.
basketball. You just got caught.
He'll say, hey, that's not bad for a writer or whatever. But he says that to other people too, that make an observation. But he treats us like he doesn't treat me that way. But, a lot of coaches, football coaches, the worst. And assuming you don't know shit.
yeah.
Right?
I'm a man. I'm 40.
It's such a complex game.
Yeah, and they've got the codes to the fucking nuclear arsenal or whatever. Excuse the language.
We can talk about
I do
nukes.
find it funny, though, when there are, gas bags on radio or writers that think
Like
they
us.
know all of, they know every single thing that has happened, right?
Oh,
that drives
a
me
lot.
up.
But they're
It's far more common.
But there's a market for that out there now. A lot of
It's all
folks,
bullshit.
a lot of folks make livings by putting up blogs, and they go watch film after the game and
that's
break down
different.
every play.
That's totally
There's
different.
a blog that MGO blog.
Yeah.
That has a
SpartanMag.com
huge
does
following.
that too. They'll go play by play after a game.
Yeah, and people eat that up. And newspaper
Shot the A gap and he missed his B block,
Exactly.
and I'm just like, what are you writing about? Are you telling me how to build a model plane?
We had our last beat writer at Michigan before our current, Michael Cohen, Nick Baumgartner, came to us with the idea that he was going to provide some of that, and he did. And newspapers are kind of in a tricky spot because that's a lot of time to do that sort of thing.
Sure.
And it goes against what the traditional beat writing, daily notebooks and all that sort of thing. So In any case,
That's why they should just pick up these blogs and have them do it.
There's a burgeoning market for that, and fans.
There's a lot of people that geek out on X's
Absolutely,
and O's.
fans really.
I'm
eat
talking
it up.
about the people that I just loathe sports radio, probably because we did it for so long.
But I wasn't worried about that
manufactured, and
I wasn't talking about the X's and O's with this. I'm always more interested in
the people.
And can you get out of your own way? And it's not just sports; it's with anything, right? Like when I write, sometimes I'm like, oh my god, I just loosen up and quit. Right? It's a struggle, and it's that way with anything. So that's why I like writing about sports in that way. Can you get out of your own damn way?
Have you ever asked this
and
question?
Be who you are,
have you ever asked
or
this
what you're
question
capable of?
Can you ask this question at a press conference?
How can they call traveling on a home team?
Yeah, that's a good question.
But one of the things that drives me crazy,
I am sick of the traveling, by the way.
You'll hear it sometimes at the end of a press conference where they're still running it just before the guy says, "Okay, we have 2 more questions for the coach before he has to get back to the locker room. We got to get on a plane." And there'll always be some guy. I'm assuming it's a young guy or a young woman who's kind of new to the business, but it's always like, Coach, obviously this was an epic win where your team performed above expectations. A lot of that has to do with the way you prepared them for tonight's game. But could you just talk to us about what a great win this was for this outstanding program and your genius, soon to be inducted into Hall of Fame career? And I'm like, what's he supposed to say to that?
Let me ask you.
I don't worry about any of that kind of shit.
I covered Michael Jordan's first retirement press conference when I was working for a little paper on the south side of Chicago, and every question from the Chicago media was like, Michael, obviously you redefined the game of basketball. You made it your own. They should probably call it Jordan ball from now on. Jim Naismith has been dead for a long time. You took down the peach baskets in every record known to the NBA, and you're going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer if you're not in there already. I just want to know, can you tell me what it was like to create the Sun? And it's like, question it. I've wanted somebody to go up and say, you sucked at baseball.
What were you going to ask, Mark?
They wouldn't let me near the microphone. You don't send a Piston fan to Michael Jordan's retirement press conference.
Or maybe be a journalist and suppress the Pistons fan when you're in the press conference.
I did suppress the Pistons, but I will say that my story on his retirement was less fawning,
effusive
than the others. Yeah.
What's your question?
I was going to ask you, how important are press conferences in your mind? Because they drive me up a wall.
We have 2 more questions, Mark, before Shawn has to get to the Shawn and Carl's podcast.
Well,
I feel like nothing ever really comes
Well,
out of
COVID? What COVID's changed? I mean, sometimes it does because there are still fans out there that want.
Could you do your job if they didn't have press conferences?
Probably.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, you could.
No, because these days you get a little bit more out of them because the locker rooms are closed, and when the locker rooms are open,
that's what I want to know: is could you produce really insightful journalism that no one else could get if you didn't have access to the locker room and access to the players?
Well, it's definitely changed. You can get access. You can get access in other ways. I remember a couple of 2 or 3 years ago, Michigan State made the Final Four run, and it was in Minneapolis. And Michigan State in our business is known. I mean, they open their practices during the regular season. They have open locker rooms, and a lot of colleges don't. Michigan does not. They used to, but when they rebuilt Chrysler, they decided not to. In any case, Xavier Tillman, who played for Michigan State, now plays in the Memphis Grizzlies, who's a really, really good player, played with Cassius Winston, 6'8", 6'9" forward, had I want to say maybe a daughter, I can't remember, had a child when he was still at State, daughter, and got married, and at 20, 21, whatever it was, 20 maybe, and was just always 20 going on 40, and I found out in the locker room one day that he had this little chart, and it turns out that here's a 20-year-old. He organized his entire life with this color-coded chart about duties and when to feed and when to wake up and all of this because he was a dad, a student, and a player trying to get to the NBA all at the same time, and it was great. And then I ended up talking to him about it, and so that's the kind of thing. Is that necessary for human culture that we have to have that story? No. But State fans loved reading it because it gave you a little insight into what made this guy so good.
I'm just thinking and how he went from nowhere to a guy who was working his ass off into a pro career.
Absolutely.
In America.
And that chart, those charts that he had, how he organized his life, said a lot about why he was who he was.
Well, and think about the locker room going back a ways when it was just an AP sports reporter who saw the Andro on the shelf in Mark McGuire's stall and says like, Or creatine, or what is it? You're taking that stuff? It's like, yeah, what's the problem? It's like, wait,
Maybe
hold on, Popeye.
maybe I'm just really cynical in that these, and I'm thinking mainly of professional sports, how they really can control their own message now.
Yeah, for sure. No, they don't.
And they can keep individuals out or individual.
They can. They don't need us. It's not that we have to be in the locker. It's not what they have to be in the locker room per se. To me, the best thing is that you can develop a relationship with somebody. So if you have some space somewhere, locker rooms are invasive.
And now
like in Europe, they don't do it at all with soccer. They would consider that crazy, and it kind of is when you think about it.
Well, so
can you develop a relationship
to their benefit? Like to Cash's, it was to his benefit, right, to talk to you. But I always just get annoyed.
Oh, you mean when he lost his brother?
Yeah, like that was. That was a good...
Well, they put me in an office. They actually put me in Izzo's office without Izzo.
I'm talking about like post-game press conferences because people always... I remember Marshawn Lynch, that whole to-do.
Oh, yeah. I'm only here because I have to be.
Did you ever see the Key and Peele skit on him?
No.
Where all he said was biscuits and gravy.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, with professional athletes, how do you make them talk? Now, in the end...
You can't.
The narrative, because of their sports writers or, commentators, he lost in that battle because they complained about it so much.
They did, but he didn't have to say anything. Go watch that sketch, by the way. He would get asked, "Oh, Shawn, what did you think about this run? You had a 50-yard run and the blocking, biscuits and gravy."
Yeah,
over and over.
I don't know how you make somebody talk.
Well,
you don't.
You can't, but you can find people in the locker room. And I only went in there, I think, once, but I think Shawn would agree that back in 2005 when the Tigers were just abysmal, about to set a record for worst team ever, guys like Brandon Inge made themselves accessible. They answered every question, and it kind of gave you some insights into his character. And he, as sort of a junior member of the team, became almost a spokesman for the team when there were older guys on that team, Dimitri Young, Shane Halter, other guys who just weren't going to talk.
How do you write honestly, though?
But you wouldn't know to go to Brandon Inge unless you got in there and somebody's like, yeah.
Right,
okay.
And he had that role for a long time, for as long as he was a Tiger, really. He used to, there are other stories about that. But in any case, that team you're mentioning, I was with for a month. This is how much our business has changed. For 1 month, I went on the road with him.
You're playing shortstop.
And I wrote one story. It was all for one long story. And I'll never forget Carlos Pena, who was, I think he was playing first base.
First base, yeah.
At the time, he was a talented player, but was really struggling. And he was he wouldn't talk, but I was around long enough that eventually he agreed to talk to me. So we sat in the dugout one afternoon, and he opened up about what was going through his mind, what would go through his mind when he get to the plate, and how he was overthinking. And he spoke several different languages. He spoke Spanish, English, Italian. There was one other one, I think. And he would get pretzeled up and confuse himself. And so he talked about the mental struggle, and that's not that uncommon in that sport. But I remember it was an amazing chat to have him open up, and that ended up becoming part of the story. He, by the way, went off and found himself, I think, in Tampa. Ended up having a couple of really, really good years.
To me, that it's a little different than when I guess I get weary because I see things like, I'll give you two examples, and they're both Adam Schefter, right? Adam Schefter works for ESPN, who has a deal with the NFL. And then you see stories come out, like with Dalvin Cook. There was an allegation that he beat his girlfriend, and she ended up filing charges against him. And Schefter had this tweet that was very supportive to him that he had backtracked from, and we now know that it was fed from his agent. And Schefter just did it again with Deshaun Watson about how this is why he wanted it to go to court, because he knew the truth and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it just seems like they're shills for that league and for the players. And do you really get to any truth? Do you really learn anything about the people? No, I don't. For the majority of them, no.
I think
you're talking about press conferences, or you're talking about which are we talking about? Here?
All of the coziness between reporters and I guess
it's not as cozy as it used to be. It's a lot. There's a lot more animus. There's a lot more animus. We're seen as kind of the enemy in a lot of ways. I mean, reporters used to travel with the team on the team buses, riding to the arena from the hotel on the planes. No, they don't need us at all. Social media's completely changed that. Not only that, they have their own teams have their own websites with their own reporters.
They have retired reporters who are now working for them as team reporters.
Well, like the Lions, the NFL has it. I mean, they're just hiring young people right out of college to do that kind of thing.
Beat reporters in general, to me, just aren't as critical of a team anymore as they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
I don't know if that's true around here.
I said it seems like it. It feels like.
I mean, I'm trying to think of like just staying with the Lions. Dave Burkett is plenty critical, right?
Dave's okay, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Oh, he's more than okay.
This is my
my
opinion. And it's even worse when you get to the announcer aspect of it because.
Well, they're paid by the team, and they're.
I know.
But what are you going to do? I mean, here's the other thing. What do you want? Do you want somebody to look at and write negatively every single time they write?
Absolutely not.
When a team sucks, right, all year long, you can't do that. You just can't. Readers will get tired of it.
Sure.
You got to pick your spots.
Misery loves company, though.
And be critical. You know for sure. And fans want to be. They want that reinforcement. Oh, they pick up the paper and they think they suck too, and it makes you feel good in that moment for sure. But every single time,
I
people
think,
get tired of that.
I think it's hard for beat writers to be critical of the team. I mean, I admire the ones who can be objective, not.
Well, it's not their job, right? They're supposed to just report.
Right, but I mean, if the team has a bad game and you report on it, going into that locker room the next day can be pretty intimidating. And I think Izzo called you out in good humor because you guys have a good relationship, and I thought that
he's called me privately to MF me too, right? I mean, he's done that to a lot of people up there.
That's fair enough, but I mean, I respect the beat reporters who can stand their ground. I think. Our friend Vince, when he was at the Free Press covering the Pistons, he had to call out the Pistons a lot. And I know when he went in the locker room, they were too ready to say, "Hey, Ellis, get over here." Why'd you write that? And he had a lot of courage doing it. I think it's really hard to do. When the announcers are homers, it doesn't bother me as much. I mean, on the radio,
for the teams for one, sure,
right? But on TV. If they tell me, wow, the Tigers are primed to make a comeback, I've been watching games like they're not. I mean, I can objectively say you're just saying this because you don't want me to change the channel. I know the Tigers they're toast. They don't have it today.
Or to go back to Deshaun Watson again, when he plays, will that ever be mentioned about the civil suits or the criminal investigation when he's playing? No.
It will. No. It will. But the people that write about it at first, but then every single game they're not going to mention that, right?
No, I know. But they'll allude to it. I mean, he went through
Ray
some
Lewis. That
trouble.
happened with Ray Lewis. Remember, it kind of faded. But Schechter. So I didn't know this about Schechter, but if it sounds like that dude, his objectivity should be highly endowed. I mean, he sold himself.
100%.
No, for sure. Okay, that's one. That's one.
He has to.
Let me point this out though.
He doesn't have to. He did.
Well, that's how he gets his scoops. That's how he became what he is.
Yeah, they're not scoops if they're fed to you.
Well, there's some truth to that. Let me. But sticking with you're talking about your idea of being critical. That's one thing. Somebody gets in trouble, that kind of thing. But let me just point this out to both of y'all and do the folks out there are kind enough to spend some time with us. The beat writers and anybody that's around, and I'm going to include the announcers in this too. Anybody that's around, let's just keep it at the professional level, at a professional baseball team, football team, basketball team, hockey team, all the time. You understand how how rare the talent is, right?
Sure.
Even the relatively worst players in any of those leagues is still a 1 in a million talent, right?
Yeah. Darren McCarty scores 50 goals in the AHL and scores 10 in the NHL.
And so you're around that, and so you see the work, and you see all of what goes into being, right? So then it's relative. So that's your perspective. You see a human being who's that gifted at something. To the fan, though, well, they suck. They made a mistake. They're the 20th player on the 25-man roster, whatever. So it's a different perspective. So what you think, God, they're sucking up, they're really not. They just understand on the large global scale of how rare this work is and this skill level is, and so that's the perspective they put.
But that could be said for a lot of industries. You could say that about a musician or something who's worked their whole life, and then they put out a bad album, right? Are you allowed to criticize that?
Oh, for sure you are. For sure you are.
And sports is weird because it is just
but it's
wins
all
and
the
losses,
time with
performance.
Sports. Yeah,
it's every single day. No,
it's all the time.
I get that. It's just
albums once a year, right? So of course you can.
Yeah, it just seems.
And I write critical columns too, but I always try to put it in that perspective of did somebody really choke? I mean, I don't know.
Yes.
I've always hated that.
Well, they do choke. Players do choke.
Sometimes they just miss
Yeah.
or make a mistake.
The other thing is, if you're going to fail 70% of the time and you don't get a
In
hit.
baseball, yeah.
I don't know if you choked. It's just that's the part of the 70% where you don't hit the ball.
Well, and all the math folks in baseball don't think there's such a thing as pressure in baseball anyway,
Well,
right?
they're allowed. I mean, yeah.
Because the numbers don't really.
Just like anybody else, an athlete's allowed to have an off day. It's just everyone's watching them when they do.
Yeah, and to mitigate that a little bit, when you demand $50 million a year and you screw up, you kind of have taken some of the sympathy out of it because when you...
Yeah, people attach money to it for sure. When you say you suck, well, of course they don't suck. They're one of the best in the world at what they do. It's just that relative to, the best in their sport.
Okay, that brings
They're
up
better
another...
than the guy with the mustard stain behind home plate, who's juggling a beer and a pretzel. They're better than him for sure. But, when you set the bar high and you demand that kind of money, you invite a certain amount of scrutiny and criticism.
And most of that just, rolls off their back, which brings, you said you suck. That brings me up to
some of it does. Izzo makes a big. No, I don't know that it does. You guys,
I'm thinking once again professionally.
You watch Ted Lasso. I know this is fictional, but there's some truth in this because I've heard this around covering sports. And there's a moment in there when one of the assistant coaches, Nate. Nate has a moment. He has a play. It works. He gets some publicity, and he's enjoying reading Twitter the next few days and all the kudos. Well, then all of a sudden he gets to, wow, he's probably it was harsh.
Yeah.
What a loser or something like that.
Yeah.
And you can see what it does. It makes him, and it made me think because Izzo and other coaches often talk about the players these days, they can see the criticism directly in their phones all the time, and
wait a second.
developing a skin for that is not something that athletes had to do before. It's not
Shawn,
it's not the same as getting booed.
Do you know how much? Well, I know, but isn't that part of the trade-off? There was a story about LeBron and I can't think of who the other two guys were arguing with their fans at the game, right? Because they don't get it. Which, fine, whatever. Yeah, those players aren't the athletes, but they're paying. It's part of the deal you make. You're allowed to be critical of that team. And
Yeah, but are you allowed to be a prick?
But their people get criticized at their jobs every single day.
Not in that way. They do not.
You want to look at my inbox? You want to look at my Twitter? You get bad messages.
Well, of course
too.
I do.
Yeah.
Of course I do.
Yeah, but you still have to perform to a certain level.
And I've had to get used to it. I mean, it's one thing. It's because
now I'll give college a break because for some reason they don't want to pay the kids and they're still quote unquote.
I'm not saying it's not part of the deal. I'm just saying they're still human beings.
Okay, I want to get
and it's harder on some people than it is on others.
I want to get your thoughts on the whole Naomi Osaka thing, where someone yelled "You suck" to her while she's playing, and she wanted to address the issue then and there, and then pulled exactly the same stunt Serena Williams did to her after the match, where the loser took control of the story and the microphone to address this whole situation.
Yeah, I saw that. What do you think of that, Mike? I'm curious.
So I feel sorry for anybody who's trying to win a spot or keep a job and they're struggling. You see these people with so much talent, way more talent than you'd ever have, and you think, well, this guy's not, or this woman's not performing up to expectation. Sit them on their ass, and I think it's really easy to ignore that they are probably living. Like, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next, and I wake up unable to go back to sleep because I'm full of anxiety about what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
A lot of people that have that.
And I think about that, what I go through, and I think about if I was an athlete where I'm like, if I have a bad game, I get cut, I lose my scholarship. If I don't do whatever, I lose my job, I lose my career. And it really makes me identify and feel sympathy for those athletes. But when you get to a certain point, like with Naomi Osaka, there's a lot of people out there saying stuff, and I would think that one of the things that makes you a professional is being able to tune that out so you can focus on the ball I'm throwing up in the air so I can hit it at 100 miles an hour, the return that's coming, where I'm going to position myself on the court, and that if you're not able to filter that out, if you're not able to put yourself in that cocoon, you're probably not prepared to be in that match. You have to develop those calluses, and you have to. Now, she took herself out before, saying that she couldn't take it, and she's put herself back in. Maybe this is a sign that she's not ready to compete again. But I think one of the things that makes a great athlete, that makes someone who can perform under pressure, is the ability to drown all that out. You know, when the Spartan fans are counting down and you really know there's 10 seconds left, not 5 seconds left, when you're at the free throw line and they're putting the big heads up and they're wiggling, you know, flyers and stuff like that. I think what makes the greatest athletes are the ones who can say, you know what, you guys don't matter. I'm here to do this, and I do this all the time, and I'm going to do it this time. And if I don't do it this time, I'm going to do it next time. And so I'm sympathetic to what she's going through, but to shut it down, I mean, frankly, out of respect for her opponent, she might just say, I got to get through this. And if this is going to cost me the match, let me just play through it and then go and cry in the locker room.
But there's a lot of people that do.
I don't like people who sit at games and just yell, "You suck."
I was just going to say,
not.
let's flip that around though for a second, because I think we're headed there a little bit.
At least not to the home team.
And
if you want to yell at the other guys,
no.
But
what drives a human being to yell out to another human being, "You suck"?
Well, maybe they didn't like the way she was playing.
No, right? I mean, but what thinks that? What makes you think in your soul that's okay to do? We do it because as a society, we've said, okay, that it's fair game in the sports. What I'm saying is that may change at some point.
It has everywhere. I
think it's going to keep changing.
What if Naomi Osaka?
People aren't going to feel free to say that.
What if Naomi Osaka
at some point
worked at McDonald's and had to deal with a shitty customer
and said, "You suck"?
Yeah.
What would the manager do? Kick the fucking customer out?
They absolutely would not.
I've seen it happen.
Maybe, but I used to when I was a paper boy, we used to sell.
Yeah, again in the 90s or the 80s.
You kick someone out for saying you suck.
Late
That's
70s.
pretty harsh.
But when you sold your
if I have an employee in my sorry, Mike, if I have an employee in my business and somebody comes in and is rude to one of my, of course they're out.
But no,
they're gone.
But okay, fair enough. But what I'm saying, and this on a very small
money isn't
scale,
that important.
We used to sell insurance along with newspaper subscription. It was only like 10 cents or 20 cents a week, and I had these abusive people on my route. They would get drunk and they would call up and they would say, "You didn't deliver our paper," which was not true because they were the most abusive people on my route. If somebody was going to get skipped a paper, it wasn't them. But for some reason, they'd get bombed and they'd want to call and harass an 11-year-old kid. So I cut them. And my manager said, "Are you ready to take them back? Because they do, they have the subscription and they also have the insurance. So we want to keep them as a subscriber." There are some...
And that's changing, is my point.
Some people are
but there are some employers who say the customer is always right.
Of course they're
and the higher paying the customer is,
and I think
the
that's
more you
changing,
better.
Don't y'all?
I hope it is, but
instead of trying to change the asshole, right? Because they're not going to change. Why don't you learn how to adapt to the asshole when they
because
because
you're doing that for the power of the dollar instead of. Right, and then you're empowering the asshole to always be an asshole, and I don't think that's right. And I think that's what society's trying to change a little bit.
Well, I think there's a line. I think just yelling
customer.
I think you suck. Yelling that out doesn't mean you should be.
If I'm in line,
thrown out of a game.
If I'm in line at McDonald's trying to get a delicious filet of fish, right, and I'm 4 or 5 back, and it's taking forever and forever, and I look and I don't like the way the body language or whatever behind the counter, and I literally yell very sincerely and intently, "You suck," with contempt in my voice, and they want to kick me out, of course they should.
So
they should. You shouldn't be able to stand in line at that point.
There's a difference here.
Depends what they're yelling. I don't think "you suck" is that big of a criticism.
If I'm driving down the street and somebody's cutting the grass on the median and they missed a spot, and I start yelling, "You suck! I could cut the grass better than you. You're a piece of shit." That to me is a lot different than me paying $50 to go to a ball game, and somebody comes up who's making $10 million.
That's because we've attached that value all these years, and what I'm saying is,
because the ball player has put himself in the public domain. The ball player has put himself in the middle of the arena for compensation, for glory, for personal satisfaction, and they are a performer. Whereas the guy cutting the grass or flipping the Filet O Fish or pulling out of the fryer, they're just trying to make a buck.
We used to boo and cackle in playhouses and theaters too, and we do not anymore.
Oh, dude, the stuff we used to chatter when we played Little League that we'd call
No, I'm saying, you go to a theater and
that doesn't happen anymore.
In 1920, I mean, society used to have different rules for those spaces. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying we're changing.
Okay.
And that's where we're going.
But I'm saying a guy who says, "Hey, Miguel Cabrera, you're making $34 million. You suck," is not the same as a guy who says, "Hey, guy cutting the grass, you suck."
Sure.
I remember Pete Incavalier or whatever was at the play. He was playing for the Red Sox and the Tigers.
Home run or strikeout.
Over at Tiger Stadium, and it rained, and we got to move down by a ball. Maybe I've told you all this before. Somebody yelled out, "Hey, Pete! I just met your mom in the parking lot or whatever." And I understand it can be funny in a boyish kind of bathroom humor way, but I get it.
Hey, I'm all for
but part
empathy.
of being professional is saying, my mom isn't here.
No, I totally understand. What I'm saying, all I'm saying is I think society's changing. I really do. And what Osaka did the other day, it's going to become less and less kosher to say, or cool to say you suck. It just is. That's where we're headed. You may not like it.
There's still going to be people saying it. There's still going to be assholes.
Yeah, and they're going to be ushers removing. I've seen it more and more at NBA games in particular.
Take care of your mental health and learn how to adapt to it. Though.
But I've started to see why.
It just you can't control every single person, but you can control yourself.
No, but you can set norms in public spaces about how we want to interact, whether you're paying to get there or not.
You suck. I don't know. Maybe it's because of the.
I'm not saying that you suck. I'm just saying I've seen more and more fans get escorted out of games not because of you suck, but you are a piece of shit. That would get you booted if you said that courtside, right?
What happened to that guy who used to sit behind the Wizards bench and just go crazy?
Oh, the rubber chicken,
Robin.
What was his name? Robin. Yeah, I know who.
Yeah, I don't remember.
He sucks.
He was like the super fan, and he would just hassle everybody, and I think the opposing teams just didn't take him serious. It's like, oh yeah, there's that jackass again. But,
hey, Shawn, how come you can
gone?
cheer all? This is just a total related but not really related question. How come you're allowed to cheer and yell whatever you want at most sporting events except for tennis and golf? It's always been so weird to me that you got to be quiet at certain times.
You can yell at certain times in both those sports.
That's
right?
stupid, isn't it? Wouldn't it be more exciting if you could?
No, I think I completely agree. I think the server, they do it during the serve, right, in tennis and during the shot in golf. How awesome would that be if you could make all the noise you want, miss it,
yeah, like a free throw shooter,
or boo, or not boo, but just make noise, try the distraction.
It would be look at Happy Gilmore.
Awesome.
It'd be way better.
It'd be totally awesome. And by the way, I'm all for you can't make a shot or you can't shoot, whatever. But to say when you go after somebody's character, that's when people are getting booted for that.
I don't think you suck.
But you suck.
I'm not saying that.
It's not like saying you're bad at math. I've got your SAT scores. And you're like, oh my God, they got.
Why would you yell that to her anyway? She clearly doesn't suck. I mean, just factually.
You suck.
Well, she wasn't playing very well, was she?
No, but she's arguably the best player in the world. I mean, right? She's not playing like that right now, but
she sucks.
She sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually,
and I gotta believe there's some players.
She's rolling, she's really fun to watch because she's amazing.
She hasn't played in a long time.
I gotta believe there's some people who use that, like the water boy, as tackling fuel. Where it's I suck.
Oh, for sure. Especially if that's coming from a coach.
That's reacting to it, as opposed to trying to change the behavior of someone else.
You're not trying to change somebody's behavior. You're simply saying you can't do that in this establishment, in this public space. That's all it is. Or private space, I guess. It's because it's technically private, but there are also public rules that govern it. Anyway.
So I want to give Shawn credit for being a reporter who still wants to be a social engineer.
I don't want to be a social engineer.
I'm trying to bring it back.
I don't want to be
Izzo.
a social engineer. I just don't want people coming in and being cocksuckers into my business.
But you wouldn't yell that at them.
The geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek? Or we're turning into cool guys?
You've probably never heard of Delicia Martin before, but you should know that name because Martin is a superintendent for the Hinds County School District near Jackson, Mississippi, who showed their hindquarters recently, this month in fact, when they tried to essentially ban a book. Martin fired Toby Price, an elementary school assistant principal who read, "I Need a New Butt."
What?
It's the Shawn Windsor memoir. It's a very personal story about a
new
man
butt
and his butt. I need a new butt.
It's a whole series of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Why do I need one?
What?
I don't have one, I guess. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying it's
small.
You could firm it up a little.
Small, flabby ass.
Maybe some Kegels or something. You know.
Oh God!
No, I guess that's not
He wants
for the
Anyway.
butt.
He once told me his butt was so firm he could play
it's a gateway
jacks off of
exercise.
it.
It starts with the Kegel, and you get back to the glutes. But
He did. He said
So-
that his butt was so firm he could play jacks off of it. He told me that one time.
it's true to this day. But I
Do you
don't
believe that, Mark?
I'm not
Yes, I
inviting.
can.
I'm not inviting
And
anybody.
I said, doesn't the earring get in the way?
There's a difference between having firm buttocks and being a tight ass. I just want to make that distinction.
Nobody's saying anything like
Having the appropriate sized office. Anyway, so this book tells the story of a boy who noticed his butt has a big crack in it, and so he's like, okay, something's wrong. It's broken. I need to get a new one. And he goes over these 32 pages on a silly and humorous journey to find the right butt. Well, the kids thought it was hilarious. They're second graders. Who wouldn't?
Yeah, I just read to Char's second grade class and I crushed it.
With I need a new butt?
No, you know what's funny though? After I saw the story, I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have read that to the class.
Yeah, so it's pretty harmless. It's about as close to fart jokes as you can get in a public school.
Sure.
Kids loved it, but Martin didn't like it. She wrote in Price's termination papers because, yes, my friends, Mr. Price, who has his own family, was fired. He or she said that Toby Price showed a lack of professionalism and impaired judgment because the topics described in the book were inappropriate. Now, Amazon is saying this book is for kids 6 to 10, grades 1 to 5, so it's pretty much right in the wheelhouse.
Has this guy done anything else to get in trouble? Has he ever been written up?
Oh, that's the worst part. So he's the assistant principal, right? So he's not teaching a class, but this was a Zoom lesson, I guess, with these second graders. The guest bailed out, so they said, hey, Toby, can you fill in? So he jumps off the bench. He gets in the game. He pulls out a book. He's got little kids, so he knows what's appropriate for them. He reads this book. They love it. Within days, he is fired. So
that is horseshit.
Yeah. So at a time when educators are under attack and books are being banned at an alarming rate, we're going to make Delicia Martin our Geek of the Week for drawing a new battle line, or a crack, if you will, in the culture wars.
There's an all-night party in room 7609. And you can dance together all night if you've got the time.
So last week we teased Todd's suggestion for our New Wave suite. He wanted us to book the King Bees, citing their strong musical ties to Detroit. He says frontman Jamie James was born 1953 in Toronto, Canada, but moved to Detroit 20 years later in 1973, where he played with an R&B group. After moving to Southern California, James formed King Bees, who Todd says helped energize rockabilly with a new wave flavor. So let's see what Todd with 1D is talking about with Man Made for Love from the King Bees. He says it's a tune that will straighten you out of that easy chair.
My arms are made for hugging, and my lips are made for kissing you. My heartbeat's going crazy, and my brain keeps getting hazy too. I'm not made by machine, I'm man made for love. For kissing you, and my heartbeat's going crazy, and my
Yeah. Definitely not new wave.
It's early 80s, so it's kind of in the right timeline and
yeah, well, so was Rat.
Yeah, Todd says that they put a little rockabilly into new wave, and I definitely hear the rockabilly, but I'm not quite sure.
Like sped up blues. I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah, I like the tune.
Yeah, it was nice, Todd. Thank you. Next week, can we listen to Jackie Blue by the Ozark Mountain?
That's more new wave.
I always hear
it's just
that.
a great song. I'd love to hear it.
I always hear that on those infomercials late at night where they play like 15 seconds of all these great songs.
It's
I'm
always
like,
on there.
I want to go buy that. And then you buy the whole thing. You're like, maybe the 15 seconds.
Just get the single.
Yeah. But I'm not feeling the new wave flavor, but we are very much listener driven show, and we love to get your suggestions for new wave tunes that you may have never heard before, or bands that you've heard before but you've never heard this particular cut. So keep the suggestions going, and check out the King Bees. Pretty good band. Some nice tempo changes, a little slide guitar there. But yeah, we're always looking for new music, so this is the spot.
I like Todd. I think Todd picked a good one.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Good job, Todd. How do we donate, Mark?
Are you in a hurry? MLSoloDetroit.com. There's a little donate button at the top.
That's right. Paul found it very easy to do so, and he said succinctly, thanks for what you do.
No, thank you, Paul, for what you do.
Yes, we appreciate it. We love what you do.
Don't suck.
Thank you, Paul.
We encourage you to do as much of it as you...
No, I'm the only one that sucks here.
So we also encourage you to sponsor the show if you'd like to see your product or your event shared with our dynamic audience. Give us a shout. Send us an email, mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com. We'll get that out there. Please subscribe to the show. We're on YouTube. You can watch us live, or you can watch the replay of our live broadcast. You can always download the full audio pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. Share the show. We love it. Rate it, even if you hate it. And, let people know how you spend an hour or so every week. There's worse things out there. And we'd love to hear from you, too. Michelle says, if Michigan loses in the first or second round, aren't Michigan boosters going to regret not firing Howard for cause when they had the chance? I believe they were number one seed heading into the season. Also, LSU just got to fire their hoops coach for cause and a $0 buyout after renegotiating his contract a few years ago when he was in a little hot water.
Little hot water. She's talking about Will Wade.
Yeah.
Who finally got fired. Will Wade was busted on FBI wiretaps, orchestrating this whole plot to with Adidas. I think it was Adidas, right? You know that whole story, don't you, Shawn? Yeah, he's busted on tape, paying players. That's vastly different.
It wasn't there somebody involved in that?
He should have been fired 3 years ago. I can't believe he was kept around. Well, Sean Miller at Arizona was the other guy that was busted on the wiretap, and they got rid of him right away. And look how great Arizona is now.
Didn't Izzo's name come up in that? And the people said, no, he wasn't involved. That was something else.
A player he was recruiting was involved in, I think it was Louisville that was battling.
Yeah, what was the name of that player? I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
But was it the player, or was it sort of one of these guys, these local guys who said, well, I'll represent you, I'll connect you with the program?
No,
sort of
it was specifically
like Ed Martin
a player.
and his kid.
Yeah. It was definitely
a player.
It was specifically a player.
So that's been around
shows
a long
how
time.
broken the system is.
And isn't Bill Self under some sort of cloud that's never been fully resolved?
Yeah, he kind of was. Yeah.
I mean, how do these things linger for 3 and 4 years? And the Attorney General of Texas has been under indictment since 2015. I mean, folks, if you're going to bring a charge, wrap that. Well, I think COVID
I'm just kidding.
came 5 years after 2015. But yeah. So, anyways. Michelle says maybe Shawn can inquire if U of M did or considered doing similar approaches to Howard's contract during the suspension.
No way.
If they did not, that's a missed opportunity. How do you guys feel about that seeding for Michigan, number 11?
I as a person who thought they weren't going to make the tournament, I love it.
Yeah, I think it's...
Is that Justice 17-14? Is that the worst record in the field of 68?
Well, they don't go by the record as much.
Who isn't a conference champion?
Who you beat, the quality of your wins, your net ranking.
Yeah, they want teams to play. I mean, this is a Spartan fan. They want them to play tougher games, and they did. But which, by the way, Michigan easily would have another win if that one game can't remember the team. It's some lousy team they were playing, so they would
Chaminade.
They would have 18 wins if you want to look at it that way. But there's been teams with records like this that have made the tournament before. I mean,
Michigan State last year.
Michigan State,
Yeah, but they were
had
the
a play-in
game,
sure,
not 11. I think they would have taken 11 over a play-in game.
No, I mean,
Actually,
by
Michigan
the way they
State's
ranked
path was great last year. They box out on the free throw line, and all of a sudden they're probably playing Michigan in the Elite Eight. I'm not kidding.
Well,
The
UCLA did.
Well, they got beat by UCLA, who went on a hell of a run.
But the next couple of games were absolutely winnable games. Yeah, for sure. One play. That's the thing about this tournament.
I don't think Michigan ever had a desire to get rid of Juwan Howard.
No, I mean they probably were gauging the fallout, right?
And I will say this because I thought we were pretty hard on Howard, appropriately so, for his non-apology. You know, the little statement they put out because we didn't feel he was sorry.
Oh boy, here we go.
Well, no, all I'm saying is he finally did address it, albeit 2 weeks later than it happened. But he did face some music. I still don't think he's terribly sorry about what happened. I don't.
No, I'm glad he brought it up.
It's always easier to face the music when you're removed from time.
It would have been tough to avoid, but the way he brought up, I could blame this, I could blame that, I could blame this, I could blame that, but I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna apologize. That feels like saying it's not my fault for this reason, it's not my fault for that reason, it's not my fault for this reason, it's not my fault for that reason, but I'm sorry, it's my fault. I'm like, what? Doesn't really feel like you feel it was your fault, but
sure. But he could have been a bigger dick and just sat up there and said, "I had my statement. Next." There's always ways to address it. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Sure. I don't know if I believe it. He does it again and he's gone.
I think he faced an appropriate amount of public opprobrium, and now he can move on to Colorado State, which I don't know if they're going to move past Colorado State.
Yeah, they are.
I guess we'll see. Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, easily.
And then who do they play after that?
Tennessee.
Then they're in trouble.
Then it's
Tennessee is really, really good.
Big, tough defense. Is that the deal with Tennessee?
Yeah, they're good.
And they're deep.
And they've got one of the best point guards in the country. Yeah, they're
really good.
They are good.
So
State's got Davidson. That's going to be tricky.
That's right. I can't believe, I had that Davidson Richmond game on Sunday. I'm like, Foster Lawyer plays for Davidson, because you just don't realize where these players go, and I don't know. That just kind of made me laugh. And they used him. They used him a lot.
Well, he's their leading scorer.
He's great. Yeah,
he's their leading scorer.
Yeah, and the other hot shot from Clarkston, Thomas Kithier, went to Valpo.
Is he playing a lot?
Both of those guys quietly split. I think he plays a fair amount.
From the Michigan side,
he's a good player. He was a good role player.
Florida didn't make the NCAA tournament. They made the NIT tournament, but Colin Castleton, remember that name?
Yeah, he played well, didn't he?
Did nothing at Michigan, goes to Florida, and had 2 really good seasons. A guy that's, 7 feet tall.
Yeah, he did. No, he had some skill.
Sometimes you're in the wrong spot.
So if State can get by Davidson, then they'll more than likely face Duke. And wouldn't that be...
That's winnable.
Wouldn't that be something, right?
That's very winnable.
It feels like
Duke's more talented. They're longer, more athletic. Yeah, for
one
sure.
more humbling for Izzo at the hands of the master.
It probably feels like that, but wouldn't it be something if they found a way to send him into retirement?
Well, if North Carolina won the last game at Cameron Indoor Arena and Vatek beat Duke in the ACC tournament, then Izzo can beat Krzyzewski in the NCAA. I think he's 2-0 in their last 2 games.
It'd be way better if Cal State Fullerton beat him, but
Yeah, Carlos believes it. Carlos Menard is the Free Press sports writer. I do a podcast with him. Yeah, he took offense that I suggested that if Michigan State got by Davidson, they'd be facing Duke.
Oh, come on!
More than likely, because he went to Cal State Fullerton. He's an alum.
All right.
Oh, okay. So he's not suggesting that you're
not serious.
You're jumping the gun by saying they'll dispatch Davidson. He's concerned that there's a presumption that Cal State Fullerton is a sacrifice to Duke.
Now that I think about it, Coach K has lost in the first round as a 2 seed before. I want to say maybe like 5 years ago.
He did to Lehigh.
Right, yeah. So there's some precedence.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the Jabari Parker team. Anyway, no, we don't. Yeah, this isn't a sports pod. Sorry.
Yeah, I just delete the last hour and a half.
Yeah, please do. So who's the next feedback, Mike?
Well, Jim says, Happy St. Patrick's Day, ML. Jim, many returns to the day, my friend. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Duggan's newest public giveaway development deal on the Fisher site at 75 and 94. Who isn't eager to rent an apartment on a toxic brownfield? Fisher Factory was the lead of the mayor's State of the City on the same day Jeep's Detroit point man allegedly pays a record-breaking price for the Fisher mansion, $5 million for a money pit worth around $2 million. What a steal. So perfect and coincidental, you'd think it was a script. hey, what's the multi-million-dollar media team do for the mayor anyways? God bless. So just to give you a little context, the mayor announced with some developers that this dinosaur plant, this old factory, is going to be turned into housing, which is
Everyone
great.
knows that plant too. It's just a dump.
It's horrible looking, and there is there are brownfield tax credits for when you take an industrial site and you put it back into use, that reduces your cost for development or the amount of tax you pay. But I don't know how these deals work all the time, but it does seem to me that if you're going to put housing there, you had better make sure you test every speck of dirt on that site, because that thing has just got to be inundated with every chemical that's ever been known to man for the past 120 years or so. Mm-hmm. And it's one thing if you take a brownfield and you put another factory there, or you put anything where kids aren't going to be crawling around eating stuff. But for an apartment site, let's just hope that they do their due diligence before that thing opens. And the other story, which kind of surprised me, is that one of these executives with Stellantis is buying the Fisher Mansion. There are several in Detroit. This is one that's on the west side because they were the Fisher brothers. For $5 million. It's supposed to be the most expensive house in the city of Detroit. And I think last time it sold for $2 million. I think that's why Jim is suggesting it's a money pit that's only worth $2 million. Gorgeous Tudor-style mansion, but I'm surprised that the most expensive house in Detroit is $5 million, because if anybody remembers where John Sally lived for a while, the Bishop's residence.
Yeah. That was a cool house.
That thing is massive, and I can't believe that there's something that would be more expensive than that. But
sounds like a good column.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be. It could be a large column.
Just food for thought.
Or a good investigation. We'll have to see.
Maybe not so much. This is probably a little bit more suited for commentary.
If you had a team of reporters.
You're so passive aggressive.
You had a team of reporters.
How is that passive aggressive?
But do you guys remember that when I think it was when Sally owned the house, and I don't know if this is local lore
Pretty damn
or not,
clear, man.
But supposedly there was a belief that the bishop was hiding money somewhere in there, and so when Sally bought the house, supposedly it was broken into and people were tearing the walls apart trying to find the money, and had just trashed this massive, gorgeous estate. I don't know if any of that's true, but that's sort of an urban legend that I'd love to ask John Sally sometime. So you buy this beautiful house and then people go nuts on it.
Mark's still mad at me.
I'm not mad. What would I be mad at you for?
Because I won't let my employees.
You were wrong?
Because I don't want my employees to suffer at the hands of assholes for a couple of bucks. But that's okay.
Now, did anybody yell at you when you're making corned beef hash with that Gordon Food Service stuff, and they didn't get thrown out? Have we tapped into something?
I think there's a sliding scale of assholes, and I think you're maybe I'm more willing to put up with more assholes.
I am in my own personal life, but I don't want my people that are theoretically working for me to have to do it. So that, to me, that's different. But anyway.
So I'm getting close to figuring out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Are you seriously going to manage a McDonald's? Are you foreshadowing here?
I was thinking more Culver's. But
Hey, what's wrong with managing a McDonald's?
Nothing. It's a great career. You can go to Hamburger U.
You're right, you can.
Get your now what do they call?
I prefer the Filet O Fish there.
When they have
ad nauseum.
When people get 2 degrees at
Hamburger U.
At Hamburger U, is that what's the one that has 2 burgers on it? I don't know, double stack. No, that's Wendy's. Never mind. Sorry.
Big Mac? No. That's got 2.
A double cheeseburger?
Delete that.
Double cheeseburger.
And a double quarter pounder?
A double bachelor burger.
What do you like at McDonald's, Bobby Knight?
All of it. I was raised on it, all of it.
Even the paper hats.
Any of it, man. Yeah, I miss the McDLT, I'll tell you that much.
I did like the McDLT.
I love the McRib.
Me too.
Although I had a friend.
We have
it's in my blood, literally and figuratively.
We're the same. You just wear your khakis a little tighter because you're sexier.
Shut up.
So when I was in Costa Rica,
being an asshole, kick him out of here.
When I was in Costa Rica, I took a picture of a billboard because the McRib had made it to Costa Rica, and I meant to show that to you guys. I thought you'd appreciate it because I know what big McRib fans you are.
Oh, you're talking about a photo of you we could pin up?
No, this was a billboard in Costa Rica that said El McRib or whatever they called it here.
I'm sorry. Were you eating the McRib?
It was a big deal. No.
Okay, I'm just curious.
What's wrong with the McRib? Those are the worst.
I love McRibs.
I've never had one, but
I had one.
Oh, but you're going to rag on it?
Who's ragging on a McRib?
Fast food pork
Oh,
just
he
seems
is.
like a bad idea to me.
It may not be pork at all, but that's okay. I still like a McRib.
Fast food erasers, that's not good either. So we got our first and second round predictions. You say Michigan and Michigan State advance past Davison.
And Colorado State, I think so. Yeah, what the heck?
Okay. So both teams, second round, what happens?
I think they both lose.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got two go through and two lose. I think Michigan loses in the first round and Michigan State wins
why do you
the
think that?
championship.
What do you know about Colorado State? Why does Michigan lose in the first round? Let's hear you back it up. But besides your hatred for the university.
Are the Colorado State, are they the Rams?
Yes, they are.
Well, there you go right there. It's a Rams season, right? It's a Rams year. Matthew Stafford
That's a
plays
good
for them.
reason.
Yeah.
The Colorado
Fill your whole
State
bracket
Rams
out that
have
way.
never lost a bowl game with Matthew Stafford.
So
at
there you
point
go.
guard.
The Colorado State's going to win the whole championship then,
That's
based
right.
on that logic.
Colorado State and Michigan State in the final.
Sure.
You heard it here
Cool.
first.
Yeah.
Okay.
And only.
That'll be great.
There goes my $1 billion Quicken Loans bracket or Rocket Mortgage, whatever the hell it is. So if you appreciate the show and want to support the show, you can donate. You can support our sponsors. You can find links to their businesses at mlsolvedetroit.com. We appreciate your feedback. You can write to us at mlsolvedetroit@gmail.com. Please follow us on Twitter at Elric, ELRICK, on Facebook. That's Facebook page ML Elric. And, of course, we love it when you subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is also ML Elric. We make it pretty easy for you to find us. The rest of the week, there's lots of good content here on the Red Shovel Network. There's Charlie LaDuff's No BS News Hour. And, of course, the Drew and Mike podcast, where every Monday you can catch Eli Zaret, which is a lot of fun. I
love Eli, man.
there.
That's a good dude. Yeah.
And
Different perspective.
now that his podcast is done, we are very close to no longer being the fourth most listened to podcast on the Red Shovel Network. We're catching up on you, Zaret. So we got everything here from A to Zaret on the Old Soul of Detroit.
From assholes to there.
So we hope you can, but we're throwing the assholes out.
That's right.
We don't want to mess with them. Filet O Fish. Hope to see you on Thursday at the Caju Cafe. Find out more, cajucafe.com, or again on our website, mlsolvedetroit.com. And until then, Cyrus, take us out.
Can you dig that? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
So long, folks. See you next week.